In today's episode, you will find out how you can run your podcast successfully, even when you're booked solid with clients. The goal of today's episode is to show you, a solopreneur, how you can keep on recording and publishing episodes and growing your podcast without sacrificing any of the client work you have on your plate right now. And I know that the promise of today's episode sounds a bit far-fetched and maybe even impossible, but I'm here to tell you that you can do yourself, your future self, a service by doing some of the things that I will be sharing with you today. You can prevent burnout in advance, and you can do so much in as little as 30 minutes per day. And I will show you exactly how you can do that. This is Say Yes to Podcasting, where solopreneurs learn how to start podcasts that attract their ideal clients and do the marketing for them. I'm your host, Anja Lordanic. Let's launch your show. The first thing on your mind is probably, how do I actually find the time for my podcast, whether you have it right now or not? Well, I'm here with some good news and some bad news. The good news is you have the time. The bad news is you might be currently wasting some of that precious time on tasks that are not really serving you. What do I mean by that? How much time, and be real with yourself here, how much time do you actually spend doom scrolling on Instagram or TikTok every day? And I'm absolutely not here to judge you. I'm just asking a simple question. And this is something any of us can check on our phones in a couple of seconds. In case you spend an hour or two per day on either of those platforms or any other platform of your choice, in that case, you can for sure allocate even half of that time, 30 minutes, 60 minutes per day, to your podcast. And since I'm not familiar with your situation in particular, I will keep talking in general terms, but you will for sure recognize yourself in my examples and you will be able to apply what I'm sharing with you today to your show. When I say that you can allocate 30 to 60 minutes per day to your show, that could mean a lot of different things for different people. This all depends on your topic, your show format, your schedule, your personal life, your business life. But in general, as I said, those precious minutes can be spent either thinking about new podcast episode ideas, looking for inspiration elsewhere, for example, in other people's posts on Reddit, in various forums, even on YouTube. You can look at what your peers are doing in your industry and see how you can take a different approach to a similar topic. And you might be thinking to yourself, but I'm not being productive that way. I haven't even recorded anything, and here I am thinking about my episodes. But I would argue that thinking about your episodes and your episode titles and the way you're going to package them to your future audience matters just as much, if not more, than the recording process itself. But I digress. So you can spend your time ideating, looking for inspiration, drafting podcast episode ideas, outlining your episodes. You can even record a couple of mock episodes by yourself. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I cannot tell you how many mock episodes I've recorded by myself just to see how I present certain topics, if I digress often, if I go on tangents, if my message is clear. So that is something you can do too, especially if you don't have much experience with, for example, public speaking, or if you started a new business or a new venture. And the next question on your mind might be, but I don't have a professional microphone. I don't have a great camera. Here, I'm talking about audio-only podcasts. So you don't need a fancy camera. You don't need a home studio. All you need is a microphone that you have at hand, which is your phone's microphone. And yes, I said it. You don't need to have a professional microphone to have a successful podcast. It helps, certainly, but your message is what matters the most. Your presentation skills, your storytelling skills, your knowledge, your experience, your expertise beat not having a professional studio microphone worth hundreds of dollars. I'm absolutely aware that what I just suggested sounds super simple. It sounds stupidly simple. But if you actually try it out, you will see that it works. You will feel much more productive and as if you're one step closer to launching your podcast or to publishing your next episode. You will feel much more at ease and in control of both your business and your schedule. Now, to make things even easier for yourself, what you can do is you can record shorter episodes. And I know for some of you, it makes more sense to record 1 hour long episodes. But I would argue that you can split up that 1 hour episode and turn it into 3 20-minute episodes and still keep the essence of each and still bring value to your audience. I would actually argue that you're bringing more value to your audience if you split up your content like that. However, when I speak about shorter episodes, what I mean by that is actually 10 to 15 or 20-minute solo episodes. That is where the magic happens. That is just enough time for you to convey your message, to share your expertise, to show people, to demonstrate you know what you're talking about, to let your audience know that they can trust you. And depending on where you are in the world, the average commute might be 20-ish minutes long anyway. So if you make that commute valuable and worth it for your listeners, you've done a great job. I can speak from my own experience. Whenever I record solo episodes, I tend to land on the 10 to 15 to 20 minute mark anyway. And I don't want to overwhelm my audience, which is another key point. You don't want to share everything you know about a certain topic in a 60-minute solo episode. And not because I don't want you sharing knowledge, I want you to gatekeep information, not that. But I don't want your audience to leave the episode feeling all the more confused and lost in the sea of information you just shared with them. Instead, share a couple of key points that when they walk away from the episode, it will be actionable for them. They will remember, they will retain at least one thing and able to apply to their business and get a small win. But I will definitely talk more about that at length in one of my future episodes. Let's stick with how to stay consistent and how to keep up with a weekly schedule even when you're booked with clients. Of course, this episode would not make sense if I did mention batch recording. For those of you who are not familiar with this term, batch recording simply means recording multiple episodes in advance in one go. So let's say you publish a 10-minute solo episode each week. In that case, in an ideal world, it would take you 40 minutes to record 4 10-minute episodes and you would be good to go for an entire month. I know that this sounds too good to be true and it would take you more like 90-ish minutes or 2 hours, which is completely fine. If you're able to find that time in your week, and we mentioned at the very start, you probably do have that time, you're just not aware of it. So if you're able to allocate that time to record 4 episodes in one sitting, you would be golden. And trust me, I've been there. I know that this sounds super easy, but it's not as easy as people make it out to be, especially if you're recording by yourself. And I know because I've been there. It is 10 times harder to record a solo episode if you're actually by yourself and seemingly speaking to no one, because it is so difficult to visualize your audience as if they are real people if you're recording by yourself in your room or in your studio. And of course, with time, you will get better, you will practice this skill will become second nature, and you won't feel as awkward recording by yourself anymore. Now, let's quickly recap what we talked about in today's episode. How to stay ahead of your schedule and how to keep your podcast running successfully, even when you're booked with clients. The first thing we talked about is auditing your time. Take a look at your week. Take a look at your day. See where time is slipping by. The second thing we talked about is allocating that time that usually slips by from you to your podcast in any way, shape, or form. You can ideate, draft, outline, record mock episodes, do whatever you like and whatever feels feasible for you that day. The third thing we mentioned is recording shorter episodes or recording longer episodes, but chopping them up and making them short. And the final thing we talked about, of course, is batching. You will do yourself a favor if you batch multiple episodes at a time, not only for future content for the month ahead, but maybe for those situations where you know that life will happen, there will be some sort of an emergency, and you will have content in the bank that you recorded while you were fresh, and you will be able to publish that whenever you need to. So my overall suggestion is to always have 4 episodes ready to go at all times. And I know that is not always possible. I'm not always 4 episodes ahead, but that is just a rule of thumb. And finally, if you want to shortcut all of this planning and get multiple podcast episodes recorded in just 1 hour, yes, 1 hour, that is exactly what I help solopreneurs do inside Recording Sprint. Here's how Recording Sprint works. We agree on 4 to 5 episode topics beforehand. Then we meet for 60 minutes and pretend as if I'm interviewing you for your show. I'm essentially a listener asking you relevant questions about your topic. After the session, it is hands off for you, and I take care of the editing, remove my parts, and what you're left with are 4 polished solo episodes ready to be published. That's 1 month's worth of content in 1 hour. It is that simple. This is what one of my clients said about the session. I still cannot believe that we got 4 episodes done in 1 hour. It takes me 2 hours to create a single post for Instagram. So if this sounds like something you need, book your recording sprint by clicking the first link in the show notes or by visiting sayyestopodcasting.com/sprint. If you struggle with consistency and keeping up with your weekly schedule, Recording Sprint can help you as much as it helped my client. Regardless of what you do one thing today for your show, a single action that will move you forward. Whether it be just thinking about your podcast episodes or recording a full blown episode, it doesn't really matter. Just do something that will take you one step further and closer to your goal. Thanks for being here, and I'll see you next week.